time. Mr. Kant, may I invite you to please join us and share your perspective.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm truly delighted that there's been such a unique initiative by People Strong and WeBox. I'm a great believer that we in India are in the midst of a very major technological disruption, and there will be a huge amount of innovation to be done in the nature of jobs across every single state of India. One of the key things to my mind is that there will be a huge amount of automation. That will be the key to the fourth industrial revolution. And as we go along, India, as it is now, has about close to 1,200 million biometrics, 1,200 million mobiles. We have another 1,200 million bank accounts, what we term as the JAM Trinity. And India is actually going to throw up a huge amount of data. And this would be simply because if you look at the government itself, unlike the fact that in the United States of America, data is owned by Google and Facebook, and unlike China, where data is owned by Alibaba and Baidu, India has created vast public highways. So you have a new Ayushman Bharat scheme which provides health insurance to 500 million Indians, which is more than the population of USA, Europe, and Mexico put together. It's totally digital, it's cashless, paperless, portable. So you can be living in Bihar and moving to Tamil Nadu, but you will carry your health insurance with you digitally. And just imagine the vast amount of data that this will throw up. You have a goods and services tax, which is one tax across the Indian economy, which replaces 17 tax and has ended vast queues of lorries outside state boundaries. But it's like putting one tax across Europe, which is again totally digital. So imagine the goods and services tax and the huge amount of data that will throw up in the days to come. Many of us do not realize this, but in India, 99.6% of the people pay their direct tax, your income tax, online. And 96% of it is settled within a period of 6 months. So the goods and services tax is all digital. And we have the Unified Payment Interface, which is actually connecting 155 banks on the back end, and you are able to do your digital payment through Bheem or PhonePe or Google Pay, all on your mobile. So what India, and we in government have a public finance management system where every single transaction till the last point, we can be releasing money anywhere in India, is all digital. So what India has done is created vast public highways on the back of which we've allowed private sector, Paytm, PhonePe, or Google Pay, all to innovate. And as we go along, what India will do is to do a lot of anonymized data and put it in public domain so that our 1,200 odd young startups which are working in the field of artificial intelligence and a vast number of academicians and researchers can use this data to innovate and find solutions to the challenges of India. So what actually India does is that it throws up massive amount of data. And this data brings in the size and scale of India, which no other country has. And this size of scale of India then enables you to find solutions to a huge number of challenges of India on how do you find solutions to cancer, how do you find solution for agriculture production and productivity, because many of our startups today are actually looking at soil and weather conditions, looking at actual soil and weather conditions and providing seed and fertilizers to the farmers on a real-time data basis. I mean, you have many startups like Tricorp, for instance, which are able to take your all your health parameters, your blood, your every single parameter of your body, and actually send it to pathologists and doctors, use cloud-based solutions, and then use artificial intelligence and give you back your result in less than 5 minutes' time. So if you look around the world of automation is radically changing the world, and that's the reason why Elon Musk says that, he's one person who said that actually every single robot needs to be taxed. And Bill Gates has said that artificial intelligence is actually a threat to human intelligence and needs to, again, he says that actually it needs to be controlled in a big way. But irrespective of such people, the world is going to see the world will constantly continue to be disrupted by both robots, data, machines, and the several different huge amount of new innovation that will continue to take place in this world. And the challenge really is for all of us to find solutions to India's problems. And if we are able to find solutions to India's problems in health, in agriculture, in infant mortality, in nutrition, we'll actually finding a solution not for the 1.3 billion people of India, but for the next 7.5 billion people of the world. And therefore, the market for all of us in India is not India. Someone said that we are building for Bharat. Actually, all of us must have this ambition to build for the world. And therefore, many of us, when we are finding solutions, we're not finding solutions for ourselves of the 1.3 billion, but the 7.5 billion people of the world who will be moving from poverty to middle class in the next 2 decades. And therefore, actually, to my mind, the whole world of human resources are going to get disrupted in a manner which the world has never seen before. And all the traditional skills which were required will get disrupted. We've inherited an Anglo-Saxon system of education where we study books, pass and get into the next class, and then we study books and pass and get into the next class. All this will become irrelevant. It's totally irrelevant in the coming years. And that's why one of the things we in Niti Aayog do through this Atal Innovation Mission is to provide, we run about close to 3,500 tinkering labs in school. And from class 6 onwards, we provide robots, 3D printers, Internet of Things, all from class 6 onwards. And we've seen Indians with a tremendously innovative mind, and we ran a challenge across all these 3,500 schools. One school which was in a slum area, another school which was a public school, and a third school which was a school actually being run inside an Indian Institute of Technology in one of our IITs. And we found, and this was a competition which was run by Intel actually, and we found that the students from the slum school ended up being far more innovative than the students from the public school or from the IIT. Because these children, young children, were all trying to find solutions to the problems that they were facing on how to convert garbage into energy, how to find solutions to the water problem which they were starved of, how to find solutions to sanitation issues. Each one of them were challenges, whereas the students who were from a IIT school were all doing heavy algorithms. So my belief is that the whole world of human resources is getting badly disrupted, and it's very, very, very extremely critical that we firstly constantly reinvent our human resources all the time. Unless and until we don't multi-skill ourselves, it will not be possible to confront the world of tomorrow. And therefore, there will be constant new innovations in the world of human resources, and we need to constantly find managers for a world of tomorrow which will be very, very different from the world in which we have grown. And this will require completely new managers, a completely new set of managers. And that's why I was particularly glad that People Strong and VBox are presenting New Coder Work Awards. And New Coder Work really is about multi-skilling. It's about looking at completely new areas of growth which India will get into. It's completely about preparing for a new gig economy. And it'll be a totally informalized economy. We've all grown up in the formal economy, but there will be no more formal jobs. And we'll be getting into a vast range of new sunrise areas of industry which we've never imagined before. I mean, just to give you one example, look at the world of mobility in the manner in which it is getting disrupted. Transport will no more be about owning vehicles. It'll be like a service simply because the cost of battery is falling so radically. The cost of battery has fallen from about $1,100 per kilowatt hour to less than $200 per kilowatt hour. But in next 3 years' time, the cost of battery will be at about $75 per kilowatt hour, at which point of time the combustion vehicle will be far more expensive than the electric vehicle. And actually, in 3 years' time, today as it is in India, electric three-wheelers, because in India, 82% of the vehicles are either two-wheelers or three-wheelers. The cost of ownership, the total cost of ownership is for both three-wheelers and two-wheelers, the electric vehicle cost is lower than the combustion engine car already. But the consumer today goes by the initial cost of vehicles. And therefore, in three-wheelers, even the initial cost of ownership for three-wheelers, electric vehicles, is much lower than the three-wheeler combustion vehicle. And therefore, all the vehicles that are being bought today in three-wheeler segment are all electric vehicles. And these are completely lithium-ion driven. So I was in Chhattisgarh in a back and beyond district, which is one of our backward districts, which we call as the aspirational district. There are about 100-odd self-help group of women. And all these self-help group of women were driving three-wheeler lithium-ion battery-driven scooters, but all three-wheelers. And therefore, the India of yesterday has radically changed in the last 1 year. And in another 2 years' time, the initial cost of two-wheeler vehicle would have the electric two-wheelers would be much lower than a combustion vehicle. So, about 6 months back, we had this meeting with two-wheeler vehicles, and we said by 2025, in Delhi, all two-wheeler vehicles actually must become electric. And at that point, industry protested very heavily that the government should not mandate this. And they said that, we will get a study done by Boston Consulting Group as to what is the roadmap, and this is government mandating, and this is not correct. And this was led by Rajiv Bajaj and Venu Srinivasan, both of them. And they really fought with us on this point, and so we said we'll wait for the study. It's been about 9 months, we've not got that study from the industry. But in the meanwhile, we kept waiting for the study never came out. But just last month, Rajiv Bajaj launched, about a month and a half back, Rajiv Bajaj launched his new electric Chetak scooter. And just 15 days back, TVS, Mr. Venu Srinivasan, has launched his new two-wheeler electric scooter in Bangalore. And this is happening, both of them did not produce the study, but they produced new electric scooters. And this has happened simply because, the startups of today are challenging established players. Ather Energy in Bangalore claims itself to be the Tesla of the scooter world of tomorrow and has done some remarkable path-breaking work. This is being done by young IIT graduates. They've just passed out of IIT Chennai graduates, and they've done some remarkable work in Bangalore. They've came out with this Ather scooters. And what has Mr. Munjal of Heroes done? he realized that there is a disruption which is on and that combustion vehicles will become irrelevant in next 3 to 4 years. He's invested 500 crores in Ather Energy. And what has Bharat Forge done, which is one of India's finest, or globally one of the finest forging industry? They've invested heavily into another electric vehicle manufacturing company, Torque. And therefore, the startups, and there are today 18 startups which are only doing innovation for electric two-wheelers in India. And what had happened in China? Again, China, the established players took time, the startups beat them at it, and the startups took over the entire market for the electric two-wheelers, three-wheelers, and four-wheelers, and the swapping industry. And by the time the established players could fight them, the startups had already moved ahead in terms of innovation. So in India, as the Kaufman study shows, actually all the jobs are being created by new enterprises, and they are being created by young startups. Jobs are not created by established companies. Status quo companies never create jobs. Jobs are all created by startups who do disruption. They are created by new companies. They are created by new dynamic companies. And there are a vast number of new Indian companies today. I mean, look at Netradyne, which is using transport data to find transportation solutions for tomorrow. I mean, here's a guy who was in McKinsey, goes and starts a new company which is totally run on artificial intelligence. Look at a girl like Aditi who runs Imbibe. What does she do? She's tracking every single student in the state of Rajasthan based on learning outcomes. She tracks students longitudinally and latitudinally exactly like you track Uber vehicles. And then she finds out which student is doing badly in maths, physics, chemistry, and then provides extra dosage of education, which has led to a huge improvement in learning outcomes. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's not that the startups are disrupting, the world of e-commerce, but there's a huge amount of disruption happening across education. I mean, how does a company like Baiju in 5 years' time become an $8 billion company? And therefore, India will continue to disrupt. India will continue to find its own unicorns, and they will all require human resources and talent and new bred individuals which are totally different from the world of yesterday. And therefore, India will be one of the most dynamic countries in the world simply because we are passing through a window of demographic transition which rarely happens in history. The average age of India is just 29, and we will remain young till 2042. And this, to my mind, is the biggest socio-economic transition that is taking place across the world. That the world is getting older and older, but India will keep getting younger and younger till 2042. And one of the key things, to my mind, is that you can't do this new code of work. It's not possible to do this new code of work without a great amount of gender parity. And this is important to realize, and I want to emphasize this point, that in India, only 28% of women work. The worldwide average is 48%. In India, 28% of women work. Worldwide average is 48%. India cannot be a $5 trillion economy, and by 2030, a $10 trillion economy, till you don't create a new code of work for women. Until you don't get women... Until you don't get women as the key driver of your economy, until you don't put women in critical positions of decision making. And I think it's incumbent for all the human resources managers, it's incumbent upon all the CEOs across India to ensure that women are put into positions of prominence and eminence, and that we train and educate the women to do radically different things in the world of human resources. And therefore, my belief is that we are in the world of a huge amount of global disruption, the world of fourth industrial revolution, the world of data, the world of artificial intelligence. Just imagine what artificial intelligence will do. I mean, the one study by PwC shows that by 2030, artificial intelligence will add 15.7 trillion to global output. 15.7 trillion to global output is more than the combined output of China and India put together. There's another study by Accenture which says that actually India can add close to 957 billion to its economy on an annual basis. On an annual basis, year after year, if it can mine its data and use this data to drive solutions to its problems. And therefore, irrespective of what Elon Musk says, what Bill Gates says, we are in the midst of some of the biggest disruptions across the world, and we will see a huge amount of automation. We will see the emergence of robots. We are going to see a huge amount of data and artificial intelligence, and it's incumbent upon all of us to really spearhead this revolution for a new innovative mind of India for tomorrow. And this would require a completely new thinking, a new kind of human resource training, multi-skilling, getting into completely breaking away from the Anglo-Saxon system of education which we in India have inherited, and creating the new managers of tomorrow. And these new managers will not be those who will build only India, but who will be building the world of tomorrow. And Indian managers will be capturing the human resources of the world of tomorrow. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm really delighted to be here. I'm really delighted that people strong and Reeboks, which measure world's talent and skill potential, are appreciating those who've created a new code of work. And therefore, you people are really those who are really driving change and transformation in India. I take this opportunity of congratulating all the winners who are really key drivers of India's growth. I really compliment the winners because really they are the true change agents of India. I congratulate all the winners because they are really will be those who will spearhead India into the next century and take India towards the Prime Minister's ambitious target of 5 trillion. This 5 trillion can never be achieved without a new, completely new human resources, and that is what you are building up. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.